We've learned that V stands for vet ideas, but today I want to know what the O stands for. Can you tell me a little bit about that, please?
So the O in voice stands for organizer survey process. And what that is thinking about the survey process from the recipient's perspective from beginning to end.
So, Mary, as we're thinking about that, where does that survey process actually start? And my guess is that it's not going to be when the person's reading your survey questions.
So no, actually it's not. And that's a really good point, Keith. What you really want to think about is how to engage somebody early, tell them that their time is valuable to you, and show you that you appreciate and really need their response. So you can do that during what I call the pre-notification. So the pre-notification can take a lot of different formats. So it's easy to think about sending somebody an email, but if you have newsletters that go out, or you're having conversations with people, or even changing email signatures, you can let your respondents know that you're going to be conducting this survey on a particular date, and that you'd really like them to participate. And so you're sending them a message that it's coming. Maybe giving them, we all get busy, right? So we're giving them that extra time to think about it. So when the survey comes, you've already kind of prepped them for the fact that you really want them to respond.
Right, that makes sense. It's really a way to respect people's time, I think, because they know that the survey's coming, that it wasn't sent on a whim. But then from your pre-notification, obviously you move on to the actual invitation email itself, or invitation text, or whatever format you're using. And then there's the part that we don't think about it a lot, and that's the actual instructions for the survey itself.
Right. So yeah, you mentioned the introductory letter, which kind of is the invitation to complete the survey, and it doesn't have to be very long, but it says, again, we value your time, we value your input, here's what we're going to do, just you're saying, please help, and this is the benefit that you're going to get from it. But then you're right, then the next thing is the survey instructions. And again, reducing that response burden on somebody, reducing the amount of time that it takes them to complete the survey. So the instructions need to be very, very clear. Exactly what do we need you to do? It's very good to let them know how long you think it's going to take. Even in the introductory letter, it'll take you 5 minutes, it'll take you 8 minutes, kind of give them all the information that they need to complete the survey well. So with very precise directions. All of those things are really, really important.
Right. And so then, Mary, you're talking a little bit about that reducing of friction, and I think that's so key. And through all of our language and the communications that we're doing, the format, the way that we're communicating, we're taking that away and making it less likely for people to abandon the survey partway through.
So. And hopefully increase, the whole idea too is to increase the response rate. If you've notified people that it's coming, and you've given them a good reason to respond, and you show them that you're respecting their time by making it easy for them to complete, all of those things can increase the response rate. And ideally, the more answers you have, the more certain you are that the data is going to represent the feeling of the group.
But of course, the whole organization of the process, the experience, doesn't really end after they hit submit, right? So we have things like a follow-up, like a thank you letter or an email or some kind of communication. And then there's the part that we talk about, further on down the line. How are we going to communicate what happened with the survey results, both to our internal stakeholders as well as the people who responded?
You mentioned a whole lot of things there. So let me add one and then go back to them. The other thing that you have to think about, a thank you note upon survey response, but sometimes we ask people, and I think it's a good idea, do you want somebody to contact you? Is there an immediate action that, can be taken from the respondent's perspective? I would like to speak to somebody, I want somebody to address this particular concern. Well, you have to make sure that you put in process during the O stage, during organizing it, if someone needs to respond right away, whoever that person is needs to get a trigger that they need to respond. Yeah. And then also needs to actually respond. Because if you've asked them to tell you something, you don't, it's not very respectful of or value showing you value them if you leave that response to the side. But you also brought up sort of the follow-up piece of it. And it's easy to think about, oh, we'll get to presenting the survey results someday, or we'll show the respondents the results someday. I'm a big believer in you should calendar those dates as part of the organize the survey process. So as you're thinking about your timeline for the entire survey, you should have the date in mind on the calendar, not just in mind, but on the calendar for when are you going to present the results internally? And when are you going to share the results back with the respondents? Again, that shows the respondents that you value their input in what you're going to, what you're going to be doing with it in the future. You don't have to tell them everything, but you can say, this is what we learned, and this is how we're going to respond. And then what you're doing is you're building the goodwill so that they may be more likely to respond the next time.
Right.
In fact, there's an argument that you could make that you should send the results out to everybody, whether or not they participated. Because if they see what you've done with it for the people that did respond, the next time non-respondents might be more likely to participate.
Wow.
I mean, nobody likes to think they answered questions and nothing was done with it.
Right.
But when they see that you're doing something with it, all of a sudden, like, wait, I'm valued. My response might matter too. So again, all of those should be considered as you're thinking about that whole organizing the entire process.
Right. And yeah, we touched on a lot of things we'll probably come back to in a later video, but here's really the time when you think about how that's going to come into play, and you sort of set those dates, like you're saying, and kind of organize the whole process end to end. And I think really if you spend enough time in the O stage of voice, you've really set yourself up for success as we go into the later stages, because you have a clear plan, you know where to go, you know what's expected, and of course you're reducing that friction all along the way.
Well, my husband's a carpenter, and he says measure twice, cut once.
Right.
And I'm a real big believer in that. This is the measure twice. This is a great time to organize and set yourself up for success.
Yeah.
I completely agree with that. And I think a lot of people try to skip this stuff.
Right, exactly.
So, highly recommend spending time on it.
But yeah, so I hope that you'll join us for our next Use Your Voice video, where we'll get into more the actual survey and how that process works within customer voice itself. So we'll see you then.